we're about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You're firing me, firing me. Yeah, you're firing me, firing me. You've got me hypnotized. Push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. Whoa. I can see, I can hear, going crazy for the luck. It's got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ring Respect Radio. I am Ol'Ed Ed Fries, and I am joined by the one and only Papa Smokes, the man with the angelic voice. Papa Smokes, how you doing tonight?
All right, what a great intro, Ed. I'm doing great here on another Thursday. Loving being here with you in the absence of Bobby Munson. I feel like we should get up to some kind of trouble tonight, Ed.
Trouble. I think I have just the person to help us get into some trouble a little bit later on. But
excellent.
Yeah, we're here because Bobby's got some stuff with work related, so he asked me to fill in, and I was like, absolutely, a chance to work with the Papa Smokes. You don't even have to ask me twice. I got this.
All right.
Which, while he should be doing work things and chilling around, he's still here. And BDJ goes, well, who's going to intro the show, Munson? I mean, I don't know if I'm the best replacement in the business. I mean, Rich Palladino still exists.
Oh, I don't know about that, Ed. I'm loving it right now.
We've got our friend Basser in here. Basser, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. EJ saying fries and smokes, my favorite meal growing up. To be a child of the period of time where smoking was allowed in places.
Oh, I remember. Oh,
I'm sure you do. We all do of a certain age where we remember the days where smokers weren't relegated to the ends of the earth. Not that I'm saying they shouldn't be. I'm just saying we all remember those days where they weren't. But we're here to talk about chaotic wrestling. We're here to talk about Cold Fury 2024, which happens to be the 22nd Cold Fury for chaotic wrestling. A little history on chaotic wrestling. They started in about 2002. They started in the summer of that year. Their first show was at an outdoor festival as part of a radio station's summer game days. They decided to put on a wrestling show for that. They are attached to what is now called the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, which used to be, if my knowledge is correct, the Killer Kowalski Wrestling School that trained the likes of China, Triple H. Some of their graduates have gone on to do great things in the business, including people like Kofi Kingston, including people like Tommaso Ciampa, Ivar of the Viking Raiders. Many others have come in and out, including AEW's Mercedes Moné, who gave them a shout out on Wednesday night last week when she returned to Boston.
That's quite the list, really. And Kowalski, I think, has many more names to his training credit than that as well. But talk about a good crop of graduates in the recent years.
Yeah, they were just visited when AEW was here. They were visited by one of Bobby's favorite wrestlers from AEW, Orange Cassidy. But to balance it out, they were also visited by Evil Uno. So, they balanced it out with a smart man who knows his wrestling. They got Evil Uno in there.
Oh, boy.
Cold Fury is their WrestleMania. This is their big show every year. You're not here to yell at me. You're only in the chat. You can only do so much tonight, Bobby Munson. This is their premier event every year. They run an interesting venue for this year's one. The one that I typically go to is when they run the local show in what they call UTEC around the area. It's a part of the University of Lowell, I believe. And it's part of the music program because they've got a soundproof room on one side. They've got a dance studio somewhere else. But the thing I find most interesting about this venue is that it's on the second floor of this building.
Yeah, that's so surprising to me too, because I wanted to ask you about the venue. It's quite nice. You can see it's an amphitheater for performance or sport of some kind, but it's got the balcony level as well there.
Yeah, they utilized it very well. They have on one side of the balcony, as you would have seen when you watched the broadcast, and for anybody else who hasn't, you can follow these guys on Twitch. When the shows are happening live, you can watch the live show for free as it happens without paying a dime. If you'd like to watch the shows on the VOD, and their VOD goes back all the way to, I believe, 2017. They have a good 100 shows in their VOD library. You can watch all that for $5 a month as a Twitch subscriber. So there's plenty there. If you follow them on YouTube, they have free matches up the wazoo. Other people who have come through and had matches. I know one of the matches I watched a little while ago was MJF versus Christian Casanova. So MJF versus Carmelo Hayes.
Oh, okay.
They're one of the premier stops when you come into the New England area as an independent wrestler. This is one of the places that they try to make a stop at. Because, like I said, it's been around for 20 years. They have a history. The people who come through here typically end up in one place, which is WWE. And for a long time, it was a feeder system. Those Northeast territories, as Papa Smokes will know, once you start getting people who know the people who run the business, you tend to start seeing a lot of the particular same people coming in and doing dark matches or doing shots for you when you need, local talent.
That's interesting. You can kind of tell that from some of the stuff I was reading, that they've had a pretty tight relationship with WWE in the past. Even I think Cena must have come up through there or done a lot of shots because Cena and then Vince showed up at a show apparently once. And
they did a charity show for John Cena's brother, who was a Massachusetts state patrolman who was doing a traffic stop and got hit by a drunk driver.
Oh.
So to help facilitate some of the bills and the recovery, they had asked John Cena Sr., who was a big wrestling guy in the area, had asked if they could do a charity show. Obviously, he asked WWE if he could bring John down. Vince says, absolutely, no problem. Why don't I come down too? So Vince comes out, John comes out, and they start getting into something in the ring, and John Cena AAs Vince McMahon in the middle of the ring.
Yeah. Wild, man. You know your indie fed is doing well when McMahon not only makes an appearance, but takes a bump at it.
Yeah, he not only did he show up, he took a bump all for charity. Even evil, terrible people every now and then do something nice. That's the only good thing we're going to say about Vince McMahon tonight, because there may be many shows in this network that will try to say good things about Vince McMahon. I don't think this man's one of them.
No, and it's not just the recent allegations. There's lots of stuff. I don't want to get into it.
We don't even have to talk about stuff that happened in the last 20, 30 years. You can go back 40, 50 years, and Papa Smokes is like, don't worry, I got ammunition for days.
Yeah.
But speaking about 2024's Chaotic Wrestling Cold Fury 2020, Cold Fury 22. The fact that they're both 20s really screwing me up here as I'm trying to talk about it. I hope not. It's a small. Did Vince know any of the paralegals in the company? Really hope not. The company the company's also been handed down, it seems like, in like the day-to-day running of this company has been handed down from like independent wrestler who's like at the end of their career and doing things. Like Brian Fury used to run it for a while, but now I know Brian Fury is not as involved, and Chase Del Monte is credited as an on-screen owner. And I know he runs a lot of the show because I saw him running around the production side balcony many times during the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we get to our opening contest of the evening, and this is somebody that some of the people who watch this show might know. Richard Holiday, who recently just turned heel in Chaotic Wrestling, taking on local independent wrestler Mortar. What did you think of the video package coming into this, Papa Smokes? Because this is one of the matches that had a video package ahead of time.
Yeah, I liked it, and I like the way they use promo and video packages throughout this show, just for anyone that hasn't been able to follow all the angles all the way through. There were a couple of packages towards the middle of this show that they kind of just filmed from the screen live in the building sort of thing, so it wasn't as clear. The sound wasn't as clear. A little bit muddy on some of what was going on in those, but helpful to this, and promoting your wrestlers at the same time right before their match, introducing them to the crowd just in case they don't know them. They get a good idea of, for example, the arrogance of Richard Holiday.
Yeah, I thought it was really great that they, because this is their big show, they did a few video packages for this one. And I was excited that they did one for this one because the story behind the match is that Mortar won a fatal four-way, an impromptu fatal four-way a couple shows ago to be the number one contender for the world championship at the show that would have happened before this. However, after the match, Richard Holiday gave a great promo and he was telling him to go get the title. And then Holiday turned on him. And he beat the hell out of him. And he threw him through a door, as you do. And at the end of the promo, he said, the venom is back in the snake.
Yeah, that was made reference to on commentary throughout the match. Good little line, especially for Holiday. He's one of those guys that, especially when he's the heel character, he's one of those guys that's a heel hiding in plain sight. He looks nice. He's tall. He's handsome. He has a nice haircut, all that stuff. But you can't trust a guy like that.
Also, they had a little bit of addition to his entrance theme this week. It wasn't just you're breathing the rarefied air. It was Paint It Black to start, a slow, deep, woman's melody version of Paint It Black. It was really interesting. Mortar came out, and as you saw with the many Mortars, the versions of Mortar I thought that were interesting from the local students. This company, the fact that they have a wrestling school makes it real easy for them because they have all these young trainees that they can just throw into these spots to have them all paint their face like Mortar, put on the shirts like Mortar and stuff like that. You then had Julissa, one of she is the social media supervisor. And the reason we bring her up is because of the fact that at the next show, at one of the other shows that Holiday was at, she was getting footage for social media. So she's using her phone to do it. Holiday steals the phone and then plays the bad guy where he's holding it just over her head and he's trying to make her get it and he keeps taking it away from her to the point where she slaps it. And he's like, okay, enough's enough. And he shoves her down and he gives her her phone and he walks away. So she comes out with Mortar's actual entrance gear on. She's got the big heavy jacket. She's got the face mask that he wears. And yes, she better watch out. Holiday has a liking for social media. Interview queen. Thankfully, she's not the interviewer. She is just the social media lead. We do have the wonderful Danielle on social media and interviewing. The match is great. Like, it starts out, Mortar's still making his entrance theoretically, and Holiday's just standing there, and Mortar's like, screw it, I'm going to take you out while I'm doing my entrance. What did you think of, you've seen Holiday before, you know his shtick. This is very typical Richard Holiday. Talk to me about what you thought about Mortar in this match and the way the back and forth that these guys had.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar with Mortar. It looks like he's been around the block a number of times. He has good fundamentals and all that, but in this match, he's got Holiday's kind of like the traditional classic heel in a way because there's nothing fancy or extra special about nothing gimmicky about him. He's just playing a complete douchebag, like we were talking about, slick. My father's a lawyer and all this kind of stuff. So he's going to wrestle a certain way, slow, rule breaking, intimidating the referee and stuff like that. Mortis had some nice Mortis. I always want to call this guy Mortis. That's somebody
fine.
else altogether.
Mortar, very close.
Mortar fought from underneath from a lot of this, like a babyface, and yeah, it was back and forth. There were a few times where it looked like he had Holiday beat, of course, but the heel's going to be slimy, wiggle his way out of it, and then as we saw, I just got to look at the finish here. Oh yeah, okay, we can talk about the finish if you're ready to do that. Jalisa, of course, involved with it.
Yeah, Jalisa goes ahead and holds Richard Holiday. So he starts paying attention too much to her as he's standing on the second rope with his bum firmly planted on the top turnbuckle. Mortar comes running back up after he got pushed down while his attention's distracted. Goes ahead and racks him up and throws him to the ground. Gets the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
They go ahead and pose and interlaced throughout this, because I was there live, I do have some photos that I can share because I was ringside.
Yes, please.
The wonderful Jalisa and Mortar. One of the funny stories that wouldn't have come over on commentary or wouldn't have come through the show. While Mortar was the babyface and the beloved babyface as it was, he had a large section of free tickets given out, and they were all positioned directly behind me.
Yeah.
His entire family, his mother, his aunt, I believe his girlfriend and her wife, some kids in the family, they were all positioned directly behind me. So Lord knows I know exactly how loud they were. And they were. They were very loud for him. Babyface gets the win. He's now the #1 contender. And I believe at the next show at the Night Shift Brewery will be his opportunity at the World Champion, which we'll discuss later. Because that championship is vacant going into this show based on something that happened at the last show.
So how do you feel about the booking of this show? Well, how do you feel about the strategy of putting kind of a hot match on first?
I always love a hot match to start the show because there are 4 big angles going into the show, and then there are a couple of matches just to have matches. So Holiday Mortar is a short-term feud that's built, but it has a lot of heat to it. Mortar's from the area. He's got a lot of family here. It's a great idea to throw that on first. Our main event is revolving around guys who have been partners and friends and now enemies for the better part of the last 3 years in this company. That storyline has entangled between these two men for the last 3 years. So they make perfect sense to main event because also it's for the World Championship. And then you have an intergender match, which is tables, doors, ladders, and chairs, we'll talk about in a little while. And that's your right before intermission match, which makes a lot of sense because you get the crowd all hyped up. Then you go ahead and say, all right, we've got autographs. We've got 8x10s. We've got food. We've got drink. Go ahead and get that. Take 15 minutes to relax, recuperate your energy. And they come back with another hot match, which is their Pan-Optic Championship, which used to be their women's championship. But in this landscape, sometimes having just a women's championship is a bit difficult. So having this Pan-Optic Championship, which fluctuates between male and female competitors, but typically is held by a women's wrestler, having that match with these two have been going at it in this promotion for the last 3 or 4 months. And around the area, they're still running matches. tonight at Wrestling Open, these two are wrestling each other again as part of a 6-person street fight that includes Zeta Steel.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of good stuff going on here. So I thought that they really did a good job layering the card in a very smart way.
Yeah, I think so too. I like that strategy of putting a toastier match on first, because just in the way that the psychology of fans and viewers works, so it seems to me at least, when you sit down to watch a show, the beginning is very important because it's a lot of the formation of what you're going to think of the product and the show in its totality, sort of thing. So if you put your trainees on, or your colder wrestlers, or your matches that have no angle or no heat to them, you risk alienating a portion of the audience, I think, that maybe isn't as familiar with professional wrestling. You watch that first match, and if the crowd is a little bit cold, and if the match is a little chilly, it can affect people's overall view of the entire show, I think.
Yeah, and Prairie Pro Wrestling, I'm assuming under the watchful gaze of Bobby Munson, puts in here, sometimes a 15-minute intermission encourages certain fans to drink a whole lot more. We call them the PPW Nation. The funny thing I think about this, and I'm interested in Papa Smokes, this is a dry show. There is no alcohol on sale at this show.
Yeah.
The only shows where these guys use alcohol at is venues where there's already a bar on location.
Yeah.
They choose to spend their money to make sure that their talent is top notch, so that if the drinks aren't there, no big deal. We've got top notch talent. We don't need to worry.
Yeah, that's fair. I've been to dry shows before. To me, it's a little bizarre just because of what I'm used to, but
yeah,
there's a wholesome aspect to it too, and a show can be an afternoon show, or a show that's just not as rowdy as the other ones. It's more for the fans and more for the kids and stuff too. The ones Munson and I do with PPW are much more the party atmosphere.
Yes, they are. We move on to what was going to be a tag team championship match between God's greatest creations, Brother Stevan and Deacon. What's his name? I forget the Deacon's name. Shit. Oh, Armani Chaos. Deacon Chaos.
Right.
They were supposed to be taking on Waves and Curls. But unfortunately, as if you watch the show, unfortunately, one of the members of Waves and Curls is currently injured. So they had to do something in it. So they come out here, they cut a promo, the typical Kia promo. Well, we were going to come out here and, have a match for you and defend, but these guys are too scared to come out there. Cue Trigger the OG. Trigger the OG is the real OG. He's been wrestling in the business for about 25, 30 years. They say he wrestled over 3 different decades, which to me just means he started wrestling in the late 90s, because you can cross over that 3-decade mark by saying he wrestled in like the 90s or the 2000s and then the 2010s, 2020s. Brian Carter says, that's blasphemy. Beer and wrestling are integral. I've been to some of their shows. I much prefer the shows that are dry to the shows that are liquored up. I much prefer my indie crowd without liquor in them. That's just me. I'm not a drinker on a wrestling show, so maybe that's just me. Plus, we're also from New England. We get a little bit more crass than people than the nice people in Canada who can maintain their composure when they're at a wrestling show.
Oh, you give so much credit. I don't know if it's deserved, but anyway.
So Trigger the OG comes out and he says, look, I'm one of the greatest tag team champions here. I've had 3 different championship reigns with 3 different partners. I am the most decorated tag team wrestler in this company. And I'll take you both on myself, because there's nobody big enough to partner with me. Cue the music for Big Boy Season, and out comes one of the biggest professional independent wrestlers in the world, Ace AC Baby Romero. There's some bad blood here because there's been a long storyline that, again, ties into the main event with a group called The Unit. The Unit was a group of about 6 or 7 wrestlers. Some came, some went. People like Dirty Dango would come in and be part of the Unit when he was here. Alicia Edwards would be part of the Unit when she was here. But they're not really parts of... They are parts of the Unit, but they're not the ones that are there week in, month out. They try to convince... Ace tries to convince him to let him tag with him, and we get our impromptu tag team championship match. Your thoughts on the tag team match here between God's greatest creation, Ed's favorite Alicia. Oh, I've had to watch that woman wrestle too many times in person. I love her to death. I think she's great. She's done great things for Eddie. God, some people just aren't meant to wrestle. But anyways, God's greatest creation.
Yeah, I can see that they have some charisma. I can see why they have why they've been picked to be tag team champions. They have some good tag team moves. They built up a bunch of heel heat, but it felt just a little bit they were over their heads in this match, trying to out heel how popular Trigga and Ace were, because Trigga and Ace are obviously hometown favorites for many years, like you introduced them as. Damn, that Ace is big. He's got to be King Kong Bundy's size, but much taller than that, too. Holy cow.
They say he's 300 and... You've just watched this match. Ace Romero, 350 pounds, Papa Smokes. You'd call bullshit?
Yeah, I do, because I have a buddy that's around that mark himself, and he's a big boy, but this Ace is really tall and really wide and really thick. That guy's got to be over 400, but hey, he can list himself at whatever weight he wants to when he's that big. But they fought from underneath like a proper babyface tag team. A lot of heat, trying to get that hot tag and all that stuff. And you could kind of prognosticate that the tag team titles weren't going to change hands on this during this particular match, despite the popularity of the challengers. I'm not sure. Yeah, probably through a booking decision with Waves and Curls was probably the original plan. We can't do that plan. We still want to do the match. So the champs are going to go over. Pretty decent tag team match. Also long. All the matches on this, excuse me, on this show were very, very long. But I think a well-constructed match. And yeah, fans left in a state of frustration by the end of it at the heel champs retaining again.
Yes, so the heel champs are God's greatest creation. They are led by, so they're called God's greatest creations, but they're part of their manager, their person in charge is the man who is in the wheelchair. And I love this. This is so great. I don't know the story. He apparently injured his knee or something, and he's one of the wrestlers, and so they started wheeling him around in a wheelchair. And you would think at some point they would magically heal him because they're God's greatest creations. But they don't. And in this match, you can see him visibly frustrated for most of the match on the outside because he came out on his own. He didn't even come out with them during their entrance like he normally does, which I thought was interesting. And at one point, one of the guys is deciding to use a pogo stick, which would have made more sense with Waves and Curls. The pogo stick, Waves and Curls, they're fun. They come out to "I Want to Dance with Somebody" by Whitney Houston. They have the Christmas crackers as, part of their gimmick that they do. They're a lot of fun. They like to do fun things. So the pogo stick made more sense when Waves and Curls were the opponents here. But he's trying to pogo into Ace Romero on the outside. And the man gets up from the wheelchair and walks in front of him. I've been watching these guys for the better part of about 6 months now. Never seen this man get up in my life. I didn't know if he was legitimately in a wheelchair, like just as a legitimate wheelchair. So that throws them off. They go back, heel shenanigans. They go ahead and grab Trigger the OG's necklace, his big gold necklace, to use it against Trigger. And he gets in and it looks like he's going to stop him, and he takes the thing away. And then he punches Trigger instead. And the whole crowd is let down because Jerry Cherryhill he screwed us, man. He got to us. But the best part is the heels are selling it like they don't know what's going on. And they're watching like, all right, I guess we win.
Yeah, with the whole wheelchair spot, I expected it to kind of be like the Kevin Nash with the fake cast sticking out and then just standing up through that. I kind of had a feeling something like that was going to happen.
Yeah, but again, well done. Good story told throughout. Not the greatest of tag matches, but it suits the bill when you've got to put something on at the last minute. And you and Bobby know all about it. Just a talent doesn't make it. Something comes up,
Yep.
It happens, and you just got to deal with it and roll with the punches. As Papa Smokes was saying, long show. The whole broadcast on Twitch is 3 hours and 20 some odd minutes. That includes a 15-minute pre-show where it's just a countdown, and it includes a 15-minute intermission during the show. So the show itself is probably closer to 3. But on a 7-match card, that means even at 3 hours, it gave a lot of time for the talent to shine, which is one of the things I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
At the show, I got my money's worth for their big show. They may only have had 7 matches, but they had 7 matches full of stuff.
Yeah, you had a main event title match, which was very important to everything. That took half an hour for sure. And then the gimmick match with the setting up of tables and such. That's going to be a long match too. Those always take a long time.
Yeah, so we have the retaining of the tag team championships.
Yep.
We then get our big star brought in for the show with Ace Austin versus Ricky Smokes. The Smoke Show. Ricky Smokes.
Yeah.
TNA's Ace Austin. Astrid was very, very happy. I went ahead and sent her because I was standing right at ring. I was sat right on the barricade, and I was right next to Ace Austin. So I made sure to get a nice video of his entrance. And Astrid was a very happy camper to go ahead and see one of her favorites, Ace Austin, live like that. In the intermission, I got to meet Ace Austin. So here's
nice
little selfie between me and Ace Austin. You can also see Ricky Smokes back there in the background.
Yeah.
Curly hair in the back. But Papa Smokes, what do you think of Ace Austin and Ricky Smokes here?
Well, first of all, I was so pleased to see yet another guy in the wrestling business with the surname Smokes. It's a famous name in show business. I got to tell you, we've got to be related somehow. But at any rate, this was my favorite match on the show, I think. Both competitors in this were like good wrestling pretty boys, but one a heel and one a face. Smokes was quite effective as a heel, very unlikable, like a good-looking guy with a good body and such, but so arrogant and so full of spite and such that you can't like this guy. Ace Austin, the opposite, very good, smaller guy, very skilled. Both these guys, I think, were around 200 pounds or so kind of like a cruiserweight type match. And lo and behold, Papa Smokes likes a match that this was constructed in a very traditional manner. This looked to me like a classic wrestling match through many decades in the past. Nothing fancy, but a baby face that's athletic, that gets by on superior wrestling technique and creativity in his moves and all that stuff. Yeah. And then a heel that's also quite a tasty wrestler as well, but he's going to break the rules, take the shortcuts and such. It's a combination as old as time, and I think it still works as long as you do it properly. And this is it's kind of like a booker or an agent practicing their fundamentals. Can you do a simple traditional style match like this. I thought these guys pulled it off beautifully, and you could hear the crowd pick up during this match more than they had for those previous or the first two matches. You could hear them pick up in this one. Nobody knew who was going to win, and the fans were kept in a state of tension for the whole thing. That's what I like. When even the smart fan or the smart can't figure out who's going to win it.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was going to be more high flying. Both of these guys do like to take to the air, but like you said, a lot of it didn't take place like that. There was some high flying moves. Obviously, these guys are who they are. I mean, if you've ever seen Ace Austin work in TNA, the man can fly, but he worked the knee, he worked the leg. They had a great spot where Ricky came up limp on something, and Ace Austin noticed it. The entirety of the rest of the match is Ace Austin working that knee, trying to get to that knee because he knows that could be his ticket to a win here. Taking advantage of that. And the entire time, Ricky Smokes is working as heel, but almost feels like a babyface because he's working from underneath with the leg, and he's trying to just get out of it and get through it. Really, really interesting. But he does take advantage of Ace Austin trying one move too many, and he goes ahead and rolls him up for a small package. The most devastating move in professional wrestling.
Yep.
But when done correctly with a match that's built around the leg, and you can go ahead and have the heel get out of there by squeaking a win with a roll-up, it makes a ton of sense, and it really works. And Ricky Smokes getting the win here makes Ricky Smokes feel like a big deal, pushes him towards that world championship. So now we've got a babyface challenger for the world championship. We've got a heel person who can potentially go for the world championship. So now our world championship match is in a little bit of disarray because you've got challengers on both sides of the fence now.
Yeah, and they're in the position, Chaotic Wrestling, where they have to name a champion on this night. This main event match is going to have to go perfectly. There's going to have to be a winner out of this match. Now, that's fun for the fans, too, because you're riding home from the match, talking to your friend, thinking, well, okay, then what does this mean? Now we've got a heel champ, we've got this challenger, we've got that challenger. This guy looked good, this girl looked good on the card. It opens up an entire realm of possibilities. I also like that everything was kind of centered, aside from the tag team championship and that Panoptic championship, everything seemed to swirl around the main heavyweight championship, which is kind of how I like it, where they all have the same goal pretty much. There are one or two smaller goals that are stepping stones, but on the way to the world heavyweight or your federation's heavyweight championship, that's what they're all going for. That's what I like. That's what I think is lost in some of the big companies nowadays. It's just too many damn belts.
Yeah, and they do a nice job of having 4 championships in this. We have our world championship. We have our mid-card championship.
Yep.
We have our Panoptic championship that's typically like a women's championship. And then you have your tag titles. That's it. 4 championships.
Yep.
Makes it easy to book. Right, Papa Smokes? You got 4 titles. It makes it easy to book.
Well, sure. Yeah. Like sometimes just having one can make it very difficult, can limit your playbook a little bit. But having too many is now that it's too much. It's too much for the fans to follow. And if you don't have established, long-standing titles, what do they really mean anyway, right?
Yeah. We have Brian Carter saying the Nightmare Pendulum is the most devastating finisher in wrestling.
Yes.
There must have been no booze that show, but you're obviously drinking now. I'm just quoting Simon Miller, who during a period of the WWE loved to say that the roll-up was the most devastating move because it led to more wins than any other pinning combination in WWE. We do move on, as Papa Smoke says, to the gimmick match. It is also our intergender match of the evening, one of our intergender matches for the evening. And it's a tables, doors, ladders, and chairs match for the New England Championship. This thing was fun. I really enjoyed this. This is my match of the night, mostly because when I got back to going back to Chaotic Wrestling again, the first entrance that I saw was the troublemaker, Shannon Levangie. She is full of energy. She's young. She doesn't know what she's doing right or wrong yet. So she's just going out there and doing it all and seeing where it lands.
Yeah, yeah.
Che Long is such a great heel for being so young. He's got light years to go to be like a Richard Holiday heel or an MJF heel, but he already has like the groundwork for it already. And the fact that he wears a mouthpiece, but just keeps it tucked in his mouth and not on his teeth is the most infuriating thing in the world.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really is one of the most infuriating things about this man is that he won't put his fucking mouthpiece in properly.
Yeah, well, Shannon pays him back for that later in the match, but I'm jumping ahead here.
Yes. we even have a couple. So I have a couple videos of this match that I'm going to play as we go. But Papa Smokes, I know gimmick matches might not be your cup of tea, but with one gimmick match and one overbooked match, everything else is fairly up to self-standard. What did you think of TLC plus Doors?
It was okay, and I thought that the intergender issue made it kind of more interesting in a way, because for one thing, there's not a lot of physical size difference between these two. They did the promo package beforehand. You get the impression that Shannon is very motivated and very driven. You get the impression that she's going for it. She wants to be the first ladies New England champion tonight on the night of this card. And it was well done. It was well put together. You got the feeling that the crowd was right along with her, even though she was the baby face. Her promo, while not a master class in wrestling promos whatsoever, she still kind of had an earnestness to her. She still kind of made it sound convincing that she was going to go out and win this come hell or high water. So it got you invested in it. Then you hear Long's promo part, and he's slimy, and he's a jerk, and he's a coward, and he's an asshole. So, I mean, again, they set the table very nicely for this match. In terms of, I don't know the angle of build-up of how long that these two feuded before they decided they needed a match like this to settle things.
Couple months.
Doesn't okay. Well, that's plenty then, really, in terms of that. But no, it was pretty good. It wasn't overly sloppy. Took a long time. I have it in my notes here. There were some endless periods where they set stuff up and set themselves up on the ropes. It's a lot of waiting sometimes, but that's the way it goes in matches like this. Yeah, for two younger talents here, I thought it was quite solid, and Shannon did a good job of putting herself over to the crowd. I mean, this was another match. You could hear the crowd very loud, even over the video version of it and stuff. They were getting into this, and there were a number of false finishes where the fans were right with it if it was going to end there, but they kept it going a little bit. Yeah, it was good. It was okay. Like you say, not totally my cup of tea, but I like to watch talents I've never seen before. And both of these were good. And I could see a future for Shannon in a ladies division where she could get some more experience against different kinds of opponents.
Yeah. It wasn't as much of a spot fest as you'd think it would be for a tables, ladders, and doors match. They had a multitude of them. Don't get me wrong. We're going to play two of them. But they weren't like, wasn't like, okay, 1, 2, 3 spot, 1, 2, 3 spot fest, 1, 2, 3 spot fest. There was a lot of rigmarole. It didn't help that poor Che Long, the tables weren't working for him at all to save his life. He was not having good luck with these tables, and the crowd let him know. At one point, he finally sets up a table properly. The crowd cheers for him. He flips us off. Later on, he does it again, and the crowd cheers for him, and he bows. Like, it is fantastic. But there are two spots I want to play here. The first one is going to the outside and just The video will take for itself.
Ooh-wee.
Hell of a spot, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a move that a lot of people don't like to take in the ring, taking a side effect to rock bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking it to the outside on top of a table.
Yeah. That one definitely caught my interest. It's not super high for danger level or anything like that. No one's turned upside down with their vertebrae cracking through that table or anything. And yet, for a smaller guy and a woman, whoo, that's a big bump and a big spot. Cheers to both of them. It was perfectly executed. Both nice flat back. Thankfully, the table broke and went down. Thankfully, they're okay. Which is what I always say after spots like that.
Yeah. We then continue through the match, and Shay Long has this match won. I'm sure Papa Smokes had it noted down on his. He had it won, but he wanted to make her feel the embarrassment that she's causing. Because at the last show, when she won the match that got her the chance to name the stipulation, she sat on him with the chair over his throat and told him what the stipulation was going to be. And he embarrassed her in that moment by doing that. So he has to embarrass her here. So he tries to go for a big spot. It doesn't work out for him. And then we get to the top of the ladder. And this happens. This is also the finish of the match. We're just going to let it speak for itself.
Oh, she put it in his mouth. She put it in his mouth? She put it in his mouth. That's where it's supposed to go. Yes, but not after it's put in his pants. Oh, yes, but it was already there. At least it's in the right position.
And before Ollie Murs gets us in trouble on YouTube, we're going to go ahead and stop it there. Her theme music as the Troublemaker is Ollie Murs' Troublemaker. It is definitely copywritten music, so we're going to stop it there before the music.
Yeah.
As Papa Smokes alluded to, Shannon would make him pay for that by keeping the thing in his mouth. So at one point in the match, Shay Long takes the mouthpiece out and puts it into his trunks. I don't know if commentary saw that. I don't know if it got caught on camera, but it happened right in front of me. So I noticed it. So you hear me and the guy next to me as it's going on. She takes the mouthpiece out of his mouth, turns it the right way, shoves it into his mouth, and then shoves him off the ladder through the table with the back. And again, well done back bump by Shay Long to go ahead and take that responsibly, safely, falling down. Again, not a crazy spot, but it's a good enough spot that it pops the crowd.
Oh yeah, and like you were saying about the feud they were having, and they wanted to embarrass each other. Long wanted to embarrass Shannon after that match because the heel's pride would not want him to ever have to take a secondary spot to a woman. You know what I mean? Like that's the heelish nature that this guy's trying to get across. So her getting the symbolic victory with the mouthpiece and then the push off of the ladder through the table, she gets the belt. Big moment. And in that clip you played, you hear at least the initial pop when the belt is taken down and into her hands. Ooh, it's a big one. And that's a crowd of 300, 400, 500, something like that.
But a little over 200, maybe 3.
Okay, yeah, but they're loud. There's a couple points in this show that really pop them big. I know about that from our federation too. In a smaller building, boy, it gets big, and that's what makes those special moments.
We're going to start to push along because we're running out of time for the show because people's coming right up on our heels.
Yeah.
The Panoptic Championship between Gabby Forza, the Nomi, and Paris Van Dale. Your thoughts on the Panoptic, on the ladies here tonight?
Well, Forza came out looking like a strong, athletic baby face kind of thing. She's got some support from the crowd, and then Paris Van Dale, my word, she heals it up hard, and that whole long entrance, I mean verbal entrance that the ring announcer gives her of all of her various titles and social media nicknames and all the rest of it. But you could feel the crowd just absolutely groaning before that introduction was even done. And she comes in like she's queen shit and playing it up good. Boy, some women make awesome heels, and this is one of them. Boy, she had them, the crowd absolutely gritting their teeth. This match was pretty good. There was some hard hitting in this. They didn't go easy on each other, but despite Paris Van Dale's almost excessive, yeah, I'll say almost excessive. It wasn't excessive, but she was healing it up hard. Yeah, got a good match out of this. What did you think of it, Ed?
I missed the beginning of this match as I was trying to get my photo with Ace Austin because he was a very popular man at the show. So I missed the beginning, the introductions, and beginning of this match. But having watched it back on the Twitch, I thought it was great. I was unhappy that Gabby didn't win. I thought this would have been a spot to do it. Paris has had this title for over a year now. She's the longest reigning Panoptic champion. She's really got it. I thought Gabby was going to be that person to take the title off of her and give us something different in the women's division. Because as you know, with women, it's hard to have enough rotating feuds to have long reigns like that. So every now and then it's nice to flip the title so you can do something else, anything else. And while, again, we're spoiled for choice here, like you said, you and Bobby talk about how in PPW, you might only be able to get one or two women's matches, every couple months.
Yeah.
We had a women's match here for two women in a championship, and we have two women also in intergender matches throughout this show on a 7-match card. So we put 4 women on the show out of 7 matches. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty good for the independency.
Yep. It's very 2024 too, because women's wrestling is very popular. We know about that too. Our ladies matches get a whole ton of views, more than a lot of our men's matches. So if that's what's selling, then go for it. And in a way, at the end of this match, they're only working on selling the rematch too, because Van Dale cheated tremendously to win this. Not only spraying, was that she sprayed perfume or something in?
Yeah, it seemed like a perfume, hairspray, something like that.
Yeah, and then hit her with
the title to distract the ref. Like, it was brilliant. Using the title to distract the referee, the 12-year-old referee, so he walks away with the championship, and she sprays her in the face, and then Gabby pins the referee, and Paris counts for 3, so Gabby thinks she wins. She hands her the title because the title's right there. I mean, it was fun finish, but it's as Bobby says, it's that heel frustrating the fans. And Paris retains. So who's it gonna be now? Because this is the 4th opportunity for Gabby in the last 5 or 6 shows. So it feels like the end of the road for her. But
I felt like this sort of double cheat, ending the perfume and then hitting her with the belt, was kind of the sauce to make up the rematch for this. But no, they're probably done now.
There still could be another match in here. It feels to me like this was going to be the end, but like you said, based on the finish, there could be more. We move on to the intergender tag match. This is a match, as a fan, I wasn't interested in this match to begin with. I didn't want this match, but it's here. BMT and Ariel, the king and queen of New England wrestling, as they call themselves, self-proclaimed, versus catch and release, which is a fisherman gimmick and a vegan power gimmick. This is independent wrestling at its most independent wrestlingness.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The match was fine. There's no WTF. Yeah, Bobby. Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah, Seabass, and who is the other guy? They were the fisherman.
Vegan Keegan.
Yeah,
Vegan Keegan. You need enhancement talent in every room. You need enhancement talent.
Mm-hmm.
This was a good match. It was also a nice breakup. The fans didn't get too loud for it, which works perfectly because you're coming off that women's match, coming off the intermission, which the crowd was into, and you're going into your main event. Your overbooked long main event. So I thought it was a really good job by them to go ahead and do it the way they did it, so that you could go ahead and move on quickly after this match was over to the main event. The only real substantive thing that happened in this is that after the match, BMT cuts Seabass's hair. He has a nice mullet that gets cut, and it looks like it's going to a hair versus hair match. So
yeah, I don't have much to add to that match. I thought that the catch and release were sort of a likable enhancement tag team, and the intergender aspect of this match didn't bother me so much because Ariel's strong. She was as strong or as heavy as any of those guys. She was giving a couple of those guys deals out of the corner looking like Keith Lee or something like that. So it makes sense. Yeah,
she's a veteran. She's on the older side. She's on the thicker side, like a Nikita Lyons or somebody like that, like a Willow Nightingale. She's on the bigger side. She's a little bit, but it's all power. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not unflattering. It's not anything. She's into it. Her and her husband BMT, they have a great little gimmick going on between the two of them.
Yeah.
They've got something there, but he's at the beginning of his career. She's towards the end. It's. We'll see what happens, but I don't want to jip our main event here, so we're going to go ahead and move on to it.
Yeah.
Danny Miles versus JT Dunn for the vacant chaotic heavyweight championship. This thing was an overbooked mess in the best way possible.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because that was my impression completely. Great match with two great guys, but it just went on, and there was so many false finishes, and then it got a little bit ridiculous. Okay, I won't jump ahead too much here.
Go ahead.
Both these guys were good, especially Danny Miles, looking good, strong. He's got the big wrestler's legs. Looked like one of those intense heels that's skilled in the ring that doesn't have to cheat too much.
Yeah. Speaking of JT Dunn, he's live.
Oh yeah.
Twitch. He has a Twitch stream. He's a very big gamer. He's very supportive of us. We're very supportive of him. So if you haven't, go ahead and definitely check his stuff out. Dream Crusher Danny Miles I think he's a bigger, thicker version of Jamie Noble. He's just this big, thick man's man wrestler.
Yeah.
He's stout. Everything is just big on this little bastard, especially his attitude.
I like that comparison a lot. Like a hardcore Holly kind of springs to mind too, but at any rate, this was good, very competitive. Liked Dunn, the babyface, a whole bunch in this. I found myself cheering for him. On and on, overbooked, too many spots and stuff. It started to really lose me a little bit when the refs started going down.
Yeah.
First referee goes down to the outside of the ring. There's going to be shenanigans in the ring. There'll be a possible pinfall that's probably not going to happen because the referee's out. He gets carted to the back. Another referee finally runs out. 2 minutes later, he's down and out.
No.
So then Frigga, the OG, who was kind of the outside of the ring special enforcer, had to come in and fill the role of referee for this, taking off his shirt, of course, to reveal the referee's stripes. This guy's cool. He's over with the crowd, and they were loving this part a whole bunch, but he had to come in the ring and bring some law and order.
Yeah. So the big thing to talk about with this is one of the important things is this is the unit. The unit is made up of Ace Romero, Trigger the OG, Danny Miles, JT Dunn, Hollywood Mike Verna, and Chase Del Monte, the owner and runner of the shows.
Yeah.
Everybody in that group has a run-in this match.
Yeah.
Everybody. Chase comes out because he wants Danny as champion. He doesn't want JT. They've been fighting for 10 years. They're sick of each other. He doesn't want JT with that championship for a fourth time. Plus, he's a 3-time champion. So if JT wins a fourth, JT's now better than him. And he's semi-retired as it is. Hollywood Mike Verna had back fusion surgery, but he comes out to go ahead and even the odds after Chase comes out there. Ace Romero comes out. He gets met with a chair shot to the head after an Undertaker spot where the lights go out. All of a sudden, you see a black wall run by me. I'm like, oh, Ace Romero comes to the ring.
Yeah.
He gets in there. Danny sees him, and he's scared. Whack! Big ass chair shot right to the face.
Yeah.
Fantastic chair shot too.
I'll say.
It
sounded like a shotgun.
On the sound, it reverberated. In the arena, it reverberated. He rolled to the outside, and he was dead. But it does come down to the two guys in the ring, one-on-one. No real shenanigans happen to the two of them, which I think is very interesting. Through all of this, all the shenanigans are around the outside parties as opposed to the people in the ring, which I think was very interesting.
Yeah, one of the best parts of the match, like I very much enjoyed the beginning. You could see they were taking their time. You could see they had a lot of time. They wrestled, catch can style, lots of reversals, lots of excellent pro wrestling. But the other best part of the match was after all that gaga, just a tiny little mini match that led to the finish right at the very end. That was some good action right there.
Yeah. Sorry, I have both teams open as I'm getting ready to do production for the Honor Rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a great match. It was Aaron Monkey joining him. TNA. Oh, wrong street. Yeah, it was a great main event. And again, I took a couple photos and I think, Danny gets the win. The heel ends up getting the big win in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I have this great shot of JT Dunn right in front of me, just staring up at Danny Miles. He's just showing off his new world championship.
Yeah, that's what really hurts when you have to stand there and watch the new guy with the belt you wanted.
Yeah, it's such a really, really great shot. And then here, Danny Miles with the championship staring back at JT Dunn here. Just absolutely fantastic as well. Ugh. But Papa Smokes, all right, what did you think of the show as a whole?
As a whole, I thought it was quite enjoyable. We talked about the way this card was booked. It was set up very nicely with that first match having some heat and some star power, right up to a big action-packed main event with lots of little bits of fun in between. And I thought this was quite good. It had a little bit of everything. It had something for the hardcore people, something for the wrestling people, something for the ladies fans, all that stuff. A lot of talent and a well-constructed, well-set-up card. You can see that these guys have been a company for a long time, and there's a foundation of excellence upon which they can book, and that's important for a company sometimes to realize that, especially when booking shows on a monthly basis or whatever, you have to do it so that with the long haul in mind. You can't just be hotshot booking all your shows and trying to put all your big stuff in the same areas and then add on the same cards. You got to look at the long haul, and these guys, you can tell, are doing that. Despite a couple of matches that had too much stuff in them, this seemed to just bring the angles along just at a nice, workable pace, and then having a few, as I call them, exhibition style matches, or as you said before, matches just for the sake of having a match for the people that love pro wrestling as a sport. And you don't have to have an angle. You could just have two athletes both want to win the match, and that's the only story in the match. Perfectly fine by me.
Yeah. Papa Smoke, we're running out of time here tonight as we get ready to make room for Honor Ramble. Tell the good people about the most expensive ticker in all of entertainment.
Okay, I can be found in Elon Musk's free speech wonderland known as X. I am at smokes_papa. You can also find me on Twitch at papa_smokes_.
Yes, and of course, you can follow Bobby Munson, the man who normally is here with Papa Smokes, at Real Bobby Munson on X, on Instagram and Threads at Video Bros SK, and also on Twitch at Video Bro_Bobby Munson. Bobby, we'll be back next week. Thank you all for enjoying this show. And Papa Smokes, it was great to finally work with you one-on-one without
For
that
sure.
Munson getting in the way.
Yeah. Oh, I had a great time. Thanks a lot for doing this, Ed. Feel very comfortable doing an enjoyable podcast with you. Awesome. I'll work anytime with you, man.
And also, you apparently have a big interview next week, and Bobby's not here. Tell us about it.
Yes, we do have an interesting interview coming up. We had done episode 2 of our trip through the territories, which involved Calgary Stampede Wrestling. We interviewed Rachel Ling Paulhouse, who's one of the photographers in this area that has photographed our wrestling federation and Stampede through the 80s and 90s. She recommended to us an interview that we have now secured for next week. It is Ross Hart of the famous Hart family. Woo! Let's do it, man. We love to do the Canadian wrestling, and this is a big one. We're going to be ready, totally pumped for this interview.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate it. Stay tuned right here on our own personal channel. Honor Rumble will be coming up in just a few moments. But for the angelic Papa Smokes, I am Ol'Ed, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.